We still have a couple more panels to go. Everyone still energized? Yes? All right, awesome. So this is a phenomenal panel of individual influencers that we're going to talk about how they build ecosystems through their initiatives. Some of them are coming from New York, Silicon Valley, from different initiatives. So I'm going to start off with Kelcey to actually do a round of introductions, say what you do, why you do it, and then we'll get started with the conversation.
Thanks, Christine. I'm super stoked to be here, returning back to Haiti. So my name is Kelcey Gosserand. I'm representing the New York tech ecosystem. I work for an organization called Galvanize, and our primary focus is to bring education, community partnerships, and events to a centralized hub and be the zip code for tech in the markets that we serve.
Hey, I'm Jennifer Litorja. I run ecosystem development at SendGrid. We are an email communications platform, so if you ever receive emails from Uber, Airbnb, Booking.com, we essentially power those emails for those companies. The ecosystem development team is really tasked with being present in emerging tech communities as well as being omnipresent, I guess, in thriving tech communities. So we have an individual strategically located throughout the world in San Francisco, Estonia, obviously New York, Austin, Texas, Sydney, Australia, to essentially mentor and advise startups because we serve as a funnel to accelerators. We recommend a lot of startups to accelerators. We partner with many entrepreneurial organizations around the world, and we help advise these startups and how they can actually scale. And we obviously give our platform for free to these startups to really help offset the cost of doing business.
Hi, I'm Jim Barrood. I lead the New Jersey Technology Council. We are one of the largest technology trade associations in the country. Most of our programs and members are in New Jersey, but we have members in Philly and the city, so we're a regional association which helps the ecosystem, right, from startups all the way through to multinationals. So we play an important role in creating a vibrant community that helps each other, a collaborative community that is just continues to help the startups grow and stay in the region.
Hello. Oh, perfect. Hi. I'm very excited to be here. I got to spend the weekend in Port-au-Prince, and yes, it was lots of fun. I did a little bit of dancing, eating, and being around the community, which was very exciting. It's great to be here. My name is Zassmin. I'm with Women Who Code. We are a global nonprofit that's dedicated to inspiring engineers to excel in their technology careers. Now, the reason we're global is because many people around the world resonate with our community. There are engineers all over the world who want to grow and excel in their careers, and they join our organization to have that space of belonging. We have a few different avenues. We connect with members on a local level through technical events and events that help with gaining leadership skills, an opportunity for a lot of members to give technical talks for the first time. And we also have a leadership program. So many of our local events are run by leaders in the industry who are engineers, who learn different skills, public speaking, skills around team building. And what all this creates is really a sense of empowerment for our members to really define tech in their communities, be a part of it, and solve the problems that they find most exciting in tech. As a result, 80% of our members have experienced a career growth with our organization, and that's something that we're very proud of, and we're very excited to be here.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Michele Perras. I'm with Pivotal Software. I lead all of our startup ecosystem work. What that means is that I work with early stage startups to help them use our tools and services. We have a consulting practice that focuses on helping companies build out their agile development process internally. We also have cloud computing products that helps them deploy and manage their applications quicker, helps them scale better, and helps them essentially become better, stronger companies overall. What it means for my work in terms of what I look to do is how do we get companies to make better decisions around the products that they're building earlier on through our services? How do we help companies think about making themselves more attractive for acquisition by building technology stacks in a better way earlier on? I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us. Thanks, Christine.
Oh, thank you. So this is the applause. Round of applause for this panel. So my excitement about this panel specifically is earlier today we talked about startup ecosystems from a regional perspective, right? We talked about the Caribbean, Latin America, Africa, Europe, the Americas. And now we're going to talk about not only the companies they represent, but the people behind them. Because at the end of the day, these corporations or these initiatives are nothing without the people behind them, which means they are influencers. I don't know if you know that I travel to close to 20 countries a year. And I partner with many of them on the panel for different initiatives, whether it's for Meetup, whether it's Women Who Code. I actually learned how to code during my pregnancy, so that completely changed my life. I actually, collaborated with you to actually do some initiatives and events in Boston. Kelcey, I just literally live in New York now with events with, SendGrid helping us with digital platforms. And so each one of them, I find who's the influencer within the organization to not only connect me to the resources within that organization, but connect me to people within the ecosystem. Because no ecosystem can flourish without the right people to make connections, right? And so I want to start off by asking, how did you become an influencer? Aside from the initiatives that you run within the company, but how do you actually engage people? Do you have a Facebook page? Do you, have a blog where people follow you? How do you add value within your ecosystem? And what recommendations do you have for anyone in the audience who wants to be an influencer as well? And that could start off with Jen.
So my background actually is very traditionally corporate, I guess in New York City specifically. I started out doing consulting, then investment banking, and then I said, I'm done with this. I'm going to move into tech, and figured stuff out in 3 months to find out where I was going to go. And so entering that type of tech ecosystem can be a little bit daunting, especially if you come from a traditional background. But what I have found to be very successful is that you have to be very genuine in your actions and not transactional. And so I had to put down all fear, that I had to raise my hand and literally ask a question, say, I don't know something, or I don't know someone. And so in doing that, it can actually tremendously open the doors. Every person I ended up meeting, I would ask for advice and say, I would like some help on this, this, and this. Is there anyone you can recommend introducing me to? And so I think the core of kind of being an influencer is not who really has the best blog or who has the best social, or social media interweb pages and stuff. It's really about how genuine you are in giving back to the community. Because when you find that when you give something or when you introduce someone or help them in some way, you'll find that it returns in tenfold. So that is sort of my advice, is to be genuine in your actions and give back to the people that are asking for help.
Amazing.
I just want to add on to that. I also come from a corporate background. Before I jumped the ship of Microsoft, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I had the opportunity to explore and be led by my curiosity. And one of the things I learned was when I was introduced to something that kind of spoke to my soul, I wanted to figure out how can I add value. And I always led with, this is awesome, how can I help? And that led me to my first job in startup land, and that led me to some really amazing collaborations. And just to go with Jen, be genuine and also lead with value.
So I'm going to just add on to that. Just try to be a connector, right? These days it's so easy, right? LinkedIn, you can connect everyone, but the one thing that everyone fails to do is to follow up, right? Business cards are easy, follow up is hard. And if you can just do that, just stay in touch and help people, you'll be a connector and therefore an influencer. So each of you can be influencers. And it's so easy to rise above the rest of the folks who are doing nothing and just staying in their own digital cocoon. So, that's what I recommend.
So I think I'll have two things to add to that, to everything that y'all have already said so far, which has been so great to hear, like my own personal thoughts mirrored back. The two things are thinking about how you want the rising tides to float ships. So my first startup, I was an entrepreneur. I founded a goldsmithing studio. And as I was learning my practice, there were a lot of things in the technical work of making jewelry and making things out of metal that I didn't know, and I relied on my peers to be able to help inform that. And we had a really tight-knit community of people who knew how to do things that were diverse, that were really open and to sharing things that were very passionate about it. So when I left that startup and went into technology, it was also trying to seek out that same sense of community where people were open with their knowledge, with their networks, with the things that they were doing. We were all aligned around a shared goal of trying to do something together. The second thing was trying to find something that was unique. There's a lot of noise in the world, and the thing that you personally bring to the table is really, really valuable to identify. What is your superpower that you can do? Is it being a super connector? Is it having functional expertise? Is it knowing a particular group of people? Whatever that thing is, identifying it and leveraging the hell out of it.
For me, and for a big part of Women Who Code, it's really about getting outside of our own comfort zone. Like, what is your comfort zone? What's my comfort zone? And getting out of it and putting yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable. Often what's happened when I'm usually in a space where I don't know very much, or it's really focused around solving a problem, that's when the best relationships I have today really form, because we're building together, we're working together, we're problem solving together. And that's actually a large part of the reason Women Who Code has really been able to really provide a level of inspiration, because with a lot of our events, it was me problem solving with a lot of other people that I thought were smarter than me, better than me, and just learning and growing together and really drawing in and kind of reconnecting with people, understanding how I can contribute to the room and the table, even though I'm outside of my comfort zone a little bit.
Right. So just to synthesize what I just heard, obviously first and foremost, giving back. I think in a lot of ecosystems today, a lot of times when people know who to connect, people want to hoard that information. Because access to information and access to people is very crucial for startup ecosystems. So I noticed that there was a conversation about making connections for people freely. Second is actually providing value that's not transactional. A lot of times we do favors or give your time with an expectation of something immediately in return and not thinking long term. To give you an example, this tech summit, how do you think I got 100 speakers from around the world to agree to come to Haiti, of all places, for the first tech summit? I actually have been volunteering for events around the world for the past 5 or so years until I started hosting my own events in Dubai, in New York, in different countries. And because I've built a reputation of giving myself freely to other people's inspired initiatives, by the time I came around and said, this is what I'm working on, they were ready to go. Not knowing that this was the path that's going to bring me to actually say, I'm going to launch the largest tech summit in the country, right? You never know what your intentions are in the future, but to Jen's point, if you are genuine, it will pay back in twofold. So that's another thing in culture. And the third thing that I really admired is this conversation about follow-up. It's very easy for us to connect and say, follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on Facebook, here's my business card. Literally, even today, I got so many pitches about what people do, but not who people are. When you introduce yourself to someone, I don't need to know your title. I don't need to know the company you work for. We want to know what makes you happy, what makes you drive, what drives you. And so when you connect to someone, you don't have to connect with 500 people in the room. If you consistently have 3 very genuine conversations, you already did the best, because you know you will follow up with those 3 people because you built a bond. So follow-up is very, very crucial. Another point I heard and synthesized was this conversation about getting out of your comfort zone. The reason why we had the mixer last night is because we wanted to make sure that you got to know people. So today, you wouldn't be clicking with people you already know. Because getting out of your comfort zone sometimes means meeting someone for the first time with no expectations, even if you're nervous. And so, in following up with these 3 different perspectives from these speakers, another question I'd like to ask, even starting with, from Pivotal Labs. We notice an evolution where influencers are now motivating corporations to do things that are different within ecosystems. Many times it's top down. Like if IBM says it's doing an initiative, it announces it on the press, and then IBM move forwards. Now you start to see people within the company are saying, hey, there's a community where something is happening. How do we leverage that community to influence the ecosystem? Can you talk about your experience about building initiatives, and actually how do you pitch people within a corporate entity or just within your organization to actually care about initiatives that you see is a big influence locally?
It's a really great question. And so this is my 3rd sort of ecosystem work that I've done as an entrepreneur or something that's built out organizations. The first one was 12 years ago. I'm from Toronto originally. I built the first smartphone tech accelerator in Canada. At the time when smartphones were just making the transition, the iPhone had just launched. No one really knew what to do with it. The second time was working for a big media conglomerate and building out a small experimental lab internally that ended up working with many, many different external partners, and now the work that I do at Pivotal. And so every time that I've done this kind of work where we have an idea, we see some signal in the marketplace that says, hey, there's an opportunity here to do some really great work to connect partners and create something that hasn't been created before. How do we go about doing this? The first thing is to essentially start a whisper campaign in the organization. Ask questions. Find out who's doing this kind of work. Is there interest? Are there people that can act as your champions or your advocates? The second thing is to figure out an early business case. Is there something that we can test and pilot to give us some sort of return, whether that's introducing our brand to new people, whether that's creating jobs, training people up in particular ways, generating a small new business line? And the third thing is being able to figure out how do you want to scale and grow that? Does it have enough legs to be able to expand beyond you and your small tiger team into something that could become part of the greater business? Whether it's, especially when you think about moving outside, so finding who your partners are, finding out are there organizations or other entities that you can bring on board. So those are sort of the 3 things that I've worked with over the years. I'd love to hear everybody else's experiences too.
Yeah, I'll just pass it right over to Kelcey. I mean, you've been doing a lot of initiatives in New York, some that Galvanize never even thought was, really relevant for the communities. I mean, even coming here was another perspective. Can you give us some thoughts as to how do you actually prove that something is a viable opportunity for the corporation? Because you mentioned piloting something small, a whisper campaign, just seeing how many people in the organization are interested in joining you to help you push it forward. But what happens if you still get friction?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just came off a big project with IBM, and it's the Cognitive Builder Fair, and it was a 3-day hackathon / thought leadership event, just furthering the discussion on cognitive sciences, the Watson platform, cloud, and the expectation from the IBM side was we really want to get together a bunch of really smart developers to build really cool things leveraging our tools. But what they actually got out of this hackathon were 11 very engaged teams, 2 that are going the route of Accelerator, and that IBM's furthering the conversation to invest further in what they built from this weekend event. So the proof of concept, like doing that proving model, is really huge because it gives a company an opportunity, like with limited resources, this is what came out of this, and I have a lot of money and I have a lot of resources to contribute so we can build something really great and take it from an early stage a lot further.
What you just said about outcomes, I think, is so, so, so important in trying to think about what it is you're actually trying to accomplish and being open to that, like that may change. And those KPIs or metrics may actually evolve into something else that you totally didn't expect but are valuable in a completely different way. And being able to communicate that back.
And just, seeing that perspective of like, you just hosted an event to prove why they should invest in 2 teams. Now, if you propose that directly to IBM, like, hey, there are 2 companies I think you should invest in, there might be pushback. But what you did is, give me 3 days to connect you with these teams in a different capacity through an event, and they get to see it for themselves, right? And so that creativity requires focus, requires persistence, but it also requires people management within your ecosystem. Who do you need to connect to, both internally and externally, to make these things happen? So I think I'll conclude this panel by asking each one of you to express what are the top tools or strategies you have to manage the people in your network and to empower your network. So as an example, for myself, I obviously leverage LinkedIn to find out who is doing certain things in certain industries. I run a lot of events in Dubai. So I try to invite the right influencers to my events in Dubai to make sure I connect them with other people, right? And I also provide a newsletter where I blast on a weekly basis initiatives that I'm doing, but share also their initiatives. Because a lot of times, what you need to build your ecosystem, others need as well. And so when you add that value to someone else, that's a great example. So just using that as a model, rounding up, each one of you provide us what exact tools or strategies you've leveraged to add value to your ecosystem beyond making connections, just very strategically, what have you done?
I host a series of influencer events. I actually had Christine for Founders Friday. I have one of my co-organizers in the audience. And every Friday, it's a fireside chat with a founder in the local tech ecosystem. We dish honestly about their stories and how they got to where they are. I try very hard to avoid having a bro panel, and I really want to embrace the diversity that is New York, so that's one. I also am a firm believer of newsletters, so there's a few that I distribute to different communities that I curate. And I also just want to be a presence and support my friends who are doing amazing things and lend my service when I can.
In terms of maintaining it, mine is kind of a hack job, unfortunately. I do get inundated and I do meet a lot of people, but LinkedIn is definitely one tool that I use to my advantage, and a very terrible Google sheet that I have with my contacts that I take with me to whatever company I move to next. But I also host these more intimate events where it can range between 10 and 20 people. And I'm very intentional about the types of people that I'm selecting to be a part of this dinner or happy hour that I have. So I want to make sure that one, it's gender diverse, two, it's diverse in skill set, and three, it's diverse in terms of where the person comes from. And so having those different perspectives allows individuals to actually learn from each other because they didn't all grow up the same way, they didn't all go to the same school, and they don't all learn the same things. And so that's sort of how I try to make sure I stay involved with the different networks that I have. And in addition to that, I try to make sure that if I can find value in either being part of an advisor to a company or being some sort of board member in some capacity, then I will do that. But if I do not have the capacity, then I will say no, because I know I'm just doing them a disservice.
So as the only bro on the panel, so I have a Google Sheet as well, and I've been doing this for a long time. I used to run an entrepreneurship center for many years, so I literally have over 3,000 contacts on LinkedIn. I have a VIP of 1,000 or 1,500, which I email monthly just to keep them in the loop, but not inundate them because inboxes are sort of overflowing. And then I'll do personal invites because we do up to 100 events a year throughout the region, but you really have to carve out the time. I mean, these personal notes are the key to getting anyone to respond or react because is so much noise. Everyone is so busy. And so if you have a good CRM system, that could work well for you. I haven't found the perfect system yet. I hope to one day. But in the meantime, it's just a matter of just drilling through names and reaching out, reconnecting, and trying to make it personal. Trying to see what they're up to. And that usually works best. And they appreciate it so much because everything else is impersonal.
For Women Who Code, and for me as well, it's super critical that we highlight our members and the people around us to kind of feel like you belong and create those narratives of success and succeed in your community and your environment. It's really about saying your story, talking about what you're working on, or really like what that accomplishment was. And so we do that on various different ways. We highlight our members through narratives on our blog, where we ask different questions about how they problem solve, how they've grown in the industry, and what they're working on now. We also do that by highlighting members through what we call an applaud her. So whenever someone gets promoted at work or starts their own company or just raised a ton of money or just sold their company, we make sure the community knows about it and hears about it, and that especially each of that member is applauding themselves and being proud of that success. And we embed that also in through social media pushes as well. And that's really a big focus for us, making sure that the community is highlighted, that and our members are creating the stories that they want to tell, and that the stories come from them.
So also use LinkedIn, also have a really kludgy Google Sheet, also use tools like Mixmax or Yesware when you're trying to think about how you send out campaigns and track effectiveness. And SendGrid. And all the things that you do in terms of managing the flow. We also do a lot of our own content at Pivotal. But one of the things is thinking about who your collaboration partners are. So if you're creating really good content or you have really good stories to tell, but you don't have an audience, who can you partner with to be able to help you gain distribution and get your stories out there? We do a lot of work with Startup Grind, talking about agile development, product management strategies, talking about some of the startups that we work with. We also partner with them on events worldwide, and we have other partners like that we know we can't get the reach and distribution that they have and the impact, but we can work with them to be able to create something really valuable, we hope, for their audiences. And I think also empathy for the people that you're reaching, trying to understand what it is that they want and how you can best serve it.
There you have it. So for everyone in the room, the influencers, you have some homework. We're going to be connecting and adding value to this ecosystem, yeah? Is everyone still here with me? Yeah. So again, thank you so much for your tangible advice and perspectives. Another round of applause for this ecosystem panel. Thank you.